This is Bloomberg Quicktake. I'm Scarlett Fu. COVID-19 is battering schools around the U.S., existing staff shortages exacerbated by Omicron as just the latest obstacle to returning to the pre-pandemic normal. Adding to the challenges is a mental health crisis for students that's on the rise, with underserved households at greater risk of falling behind. An education startup aims to solve this. AllHere is a company that began by providing K-12 school administrators and teachers with technology to address chronic absenteeism. For this edition of our Small Business Spotlight, I want to welcome AllHere CEO and founder, Joanna Smith. Joanna, welcome to Quicktake. You started off in education yourself as a former math teacher and family engagement director at a charter school. Was there a specific moment that led you to start AllHere?
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, so for background, what AllHere is an ed tech company that helps to foster engagement and reduce absenteeism using chats that are powered by AI. And for myself, really the start of AllHere came from having taught 6th and 8th grade math. As a teacher and as a leader trying to get families involved in their children's schooling, I saw firsthand how youth who are struggling with absenteeism can often be treated in a punitive way. And I wanted to build a company that could help schools scale empathetic, rigorous 24/7 help for those kids while it's treating the family as a critical stakeholder in their children's education.
Now, like so many other entrepreneurs, COVID was obviously very disruptive and you had to pivot. And AllHere has broadened its mission from helping schools address student absenteeism to helping them improve student outcomes overall on a broader scale. What did AllHere engagement look like pre-pandemic and what does it look like now?
Pre-COVID, and AllHere engagement was focused on really surfacing trends in what absenteeism looks like for youth, and then really working to nudge teachers to do the right intervention with the right student and the right family at the right time. What we saw with COVID was, one, the number of students who needed help with engagement and really learning, whether that was in school or online, increased. And what it meant for us was we had an opportunity to be one of the first companies to apply conversational AI in K-12. So now what an engagement for AllHere looks like is that using texting, we can serve as an advisor to each and every parent 24/7 to get them back on track. So whether it's issues with attendance, transportation, mental health, our goal is still to get the right help to the right family and child at the right time. But now we're really leaning into tech so that that work can happen at scale.
And why texting in particular? Why that form of engagement as opposed to, I don't know, phone calls, emails, or even in-person meetings, which understandably is a lot more difficult right now?
Absolutely. So most schools will typically use things like mail, email, phone calls, or even especially pre-COVID, visiting families' homes in person. But what we found through our research was that of today's K-12 parents, only 6% of them will access email on a regular or daily basis. When it comes to mail, about 40% of parents will open and read mail, but when it comes to text, 98% of parents are willing to open and answer text. It made us really seek to, as a part of our empathy-centered mindset, meet parents where they are.
Got it, got it. And we talk about parents, but really your clients here are the schools. They pay you an annual fee to use your technology, the chatbot powered by the AI. And your client base has grown exponentially since the start of the pandemic. You began with about 1,100 schools, and now you have 9,000 schools across 34 states. Tell me how you charge the schools. Is it on a per student basis?
Yes, it's on a per student basis as a function of total enrollment.
Okay, but is it a even price across all the school districts, or it depends on the services that you offer?
It depends on the services being offered. So each client has the opportunity to really specify how they see their chatbot as functioning in their school. So for some, they focus on one area like enrollment or absences, and in others, it's a blend of coupling that focus with areas like mental health, transportation, and IT. So our per student charge varies with the complexity of the chatbot being launched.
Okay, I understand now. You're based in Boston. Here in New York City, enrollment in public schools has been shrinking. It's down 10% from 2019 and is now at the lowest since at least a decade, which is pretty amazing. When you break it down, Black students saw the steepest enrollment decline, down 14%, and economically disadvantaged students saw enrollment fall almost 15%. You're someone who's been focused on solving this problem for years. I'm wondering what you've learned about the primary reasons why kids don't attend schools consistently.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things to think about when it comes to the reasons why kids miss school is that it's intensely personal at any given moment. For some kids, it's not understanding how absences are adding up. For others, they may be facing issues like bullying, transportation, mental health that make the act of being present and able to engage in school each and every day hard. What we find is the most critical thing for schools to be able to do is to have personalized conversations, but also be able to give personalized guidance to those families and kids at scale that is targeting their individual reason for being absent at any specific time.
Right. At scale is the key word there, because this is something all administrators and teachers are tasked with, despite the many different reasons why students might be missing schools on a regular basis. When I look at the funding and the financing of your company, you've raised $12 million in venture capital. It's obviously harder for women and people of color to get funding, yet your background as a Black woman is an asset given the population that you serve. Is this something that you needed to point out, or did investors just get it?
Luckily, the investors that I am fortunate to work with in ed tech as well as impact really understand that it's important for students of color to not just be users of ed tech, but to see themselves in the positions of leadership and the management teams that are scaling as well as growing these firms. So I'm fortunate to be in a position where all of our backers take that as a core part of what they look for in the companies that they fund.
Yeah, your interests are aligned in that way then. During the pandemic, we've seen the federal government give states a lot of money, and public schools now have an infusion of federal dollars to work with. Schools are reluctant to spend that money on hiring teachers because it's not a consistent revenue stream, but they are spending it on things like technology. I wonder if you have any concern that this is a one-off. When the government eventually turns off the spigot, schools can't afford to keep a lot of their technology, including perhaps their AllHere subscription.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we hear from our clients on a consistent basis is that the current landscape allows for them to, in some cases, make once in a lifetime levels of investments in areas that have always been important to K-12 system level leaders, but can at times be hard to fund. What we also hear, though, is that system level leaders around the country continue to have a laser focus on really driving at the core of what moves the needle in outcomes and results for kids. And given that AllHere, with its focus on areas like enrollment and absenteeism, aligns with that core of what's needed to run an effective as well as equitable educational context for our kids, we see ourselves as having a permanent sense of being able to be relevant in this space beyond the initial CARES Act.
Right. You're not a nice to have, you're a need to have. I know
Correct.
that AllHere is not profitable yet. You're really focusing on investing in the company and growing it. But going forward, you're looking to expand your services beyond what you do right now to advisory work for families, for students post high school. Describe what owning that K through 12 vertical looks like for you.
Absolutely. For us, owning K through 12 means that from enrollment through registration through graduation and beyond, that AllHere has a central role in helping families to navigate any barrier to learning, whether that's inside or outside of class, whilst being able to save teacher time as well as staff time.
Joanna, really appreciate your joining us today and telling us about what AllHere does. Joanna Smith is CEO and founder of AllHere, joining us from Boston. Thank you so much for this week's Small Business Spotlight.